Hello. Today we are doing the A level Unit 3, Topic 15, System Development, Section 15.2, that is Waterfall Method. You can see all 5 lessons of Topic 15 in the playlist in the correct order to follow. As usual, you can see the section 15.2 of the Edexcel IT specification. This shows what are the areas they expect you to learn under section 15.2. So, as per the spec, you need to know the concepts and features of waterfall method and the phases of the waterfall method and the types of activities that take place in each phase. So, let's start. There are several project management methodologies, and the one that we learned today is the waterfall method, and the other one that is under your syllabus is the agile method. There's a separate video for that. Right. So waterfall methodology, it's an old school software development method starting from the 1970s. In a waterfall process, you must complete each project phase before moving to the next. It's pretty rigid and linear. The method relies heavily on all the requirements and thinking done before you begin. Don't worry if you haven't heard of it. Let's break the waterfall method down and see how it works. This methodology is called waterfall because the process is like a waterfall where each process phase cascades downwards sequentially through 5 stages. Let's see those 5 stages. Right. The 5 phases of the waterfall methodology are requirements, design, implementation, verification, and maintenance. Let's break down the 5 specific phases of waterfall development and understand why it's critical to complete each phase before progressing to the next. Yeah, those are the 5 phases of the waterfall methodology: the requirements, design, implementation, verification, and maintenance. The first stage of waterfall method is requirements stage. It determine the project scope and find and document what the system should do. This stage further determine the resource required for the project, the quantity and the other criteria of the resources must meet, and it also analyze and determine the number of teams, team composition, and what work each team members would do at what stage of the project. And the requirement space also put down a timeline for the entire project, outlining like how long each stage will take. This is typically done using the project management techniques we learned in topic section 15.1, the previous video that I have uploaded. More complex and big the project, more advanced the project management tool needs to be. Next, the requirement stage also details on each stage of the process that is to follow and what exactly the team will do in each stage. Requirements may change from very abstract to a detailed mathematical specification depending on the nature of the project and where the team stands with the clarity of the requirements. But at the end of the stage, the team must be fully aware of the exact requirement, what the ask from the customer, and when they need to complete the project. The key deliverable of this stage is a detailed software requirement specification. We call it as the SRS. It's a document that contains details of the requirements, the screen designs, explanations of each input field, report layout, explaining each report field, user flows, menus, different user roles or personas, and everything, right? So usually the project team will request the customer to review and sign off the SRS before they move to the next stage, so that they are fully confident the requirements are confirmed by the customer so that they can start their development work. Right. After the requirements, we move into the design stage. Since we now have the 100% requirement detail out, the design phase is where the designers develop the solution that meet the requirements. So they also create schedules and project milestones, determine the exact deliverables, including the success criteria and the acceptance criteria. The deliverables also include technical design documents, user manuals, and other supporting documentations. Delivery could include software, or they could consist of a physical product. For instance, designers determine the system architecture and use cases for the software. Right. Okay, the third stage is the implementation. This is when the design documents and specifications are handed over to the developers to build the desired programmers to build the desired system. So, to accomplish this, developers typically create an implementation plan, then collect any data or research needed for the build and assign specific tasks and allocate resources among the team. Uh, all the while, the project manager tracks these activities and task assignments and maintain those in the project management tool. The project plan for the implementation stage will be detailed out to specific tasks. Once the implementation plan is fully drawn, all the tasks are in the project management tool. The team will find out any dependencies with external teams, software, and systems that will be added to the implementation plan as well. And the developers might even find out that parts of the design that can't be implemented, the security issues and all that. So once all the planning activities are done, the developers go into coding and implementing the system. So the key deliverable at the end of this stage is the complete working software system that is now ready for verification. Next, the project moves into the verification stage where the developed code and the software is handed over to the quality assurance team for a complete verification and testing. The QA team is responsible for this stage. QA team carry out activities such as writing test cases, testing the system by executing those test cases, and documenting any bugs or defects and errors that they found so that the developers can fix those issues. The QA determines which QA metrics to track and covers a variety of use case scenarios and environments. The scenarios they cover include the intended user behavior as well as deliberately they try to fail the system or generate errors to see that the system is capable of handling those erroneous situations without a system failure. The development team is in standby during verification and they are to fix the bugs that the QA finds. The QA will retest the system or parts of system when they receive bug fixes by the developers. And so these activities of finding bugs, fixing them, and retesting again and will repeat in the verification stage until the system is in a stable for production and deployment. So once the QA signs off the system as passed, the system will be released to the customer and deployed in the production environment so that the customers can use it. Next, we have the maintenance stage, which is also the final stage of waterfall method. So after the system is deployed into production, use the system is handed over to maintenance and support teams. Since a new software can contain bugs that were not caught at the implementation or verification stages, it is important that someone with the technical understanding and the business understanding provide some maintenance for some time. So during the first few weeks or months of after the production deployment, the original development team is typically allocated to provide maintenance and bug fixes. We call it the post go live support or PGL support. So this period may vary between couple of weeks to several months depending on the complexity of the and also the size of the system. So later on, the full responsibility of the maintenance can be transitioned to full time maintenance and support team later on. The customers and system users will let the support staff know any issues that may come up. Then it's up to the support team to address those requests and release newer versions of the system. Some issues may not bugs, it could be the change request or new requirements. So likewise, that is the maintenance phase. Maintenance phase does not have a definite time or duration to end. It depends on the number of bugs reporting and the complexity and the size and the maintenance agreement conditions and all that. Okay. So let's move on to discussing the benefits of waterfall method. Firstly, it is a very well documentation and clear methodology that provides instructions how a project must be structured and executed. There are nothing to guess or invent on your own. You are in a framework. And secondly, the method specify how to set cost, how to track cost, and what needs to be done when cost overflow. Third benefit is that it is easy to track since it's a highly prescriptive type of a method. Every member of the project team must follow the rules, and tracking becomes easy for the project manager. And the number four benefit is the process can be replicated over and over again for multiple projects, so it can be easily adaptable. And then we have the comprehensive project documentation. That's a big benefit. The method details what needs to be documented at which stage. The team cannot move on to the next stage without completing the documentation and signing them off with the customer. So if there are needs to be changes, must be first document signed off before they can do the next activities. And then the risk management is part of the process, and because of that it forced the PM to track risks and manage risk formally. The methodology enhanced responsibilities and the accountability since every team member has specific duties as per the methodology to follow, such as meeting deadlines, review documents, sign off, report issues to the PM, report delays to the PM, and etc. So for a workforce that are new or not have the experience in project management, this method is more precise since everything is laid out for you. There are no ambiguity or vague areas to get into trouble. Finally, the method allows fewer delays because additional requirement changes are discouraged if not captured at the requirement stage. Therefore, there are no last minute changes happening, requirement changes. Therefore, customers are also mindful not to request them since it will result in a fresh requirements estimation and a revised delivery date, usually later than the original one. So those are the benefits of waterfall method. Now let's look at the flip side, the limitations of the waterfall methodology. Waterfall is usually associated with longer delivery times. It is used for projects that span for months and years. As you saw earlier, the customer gives the requirements in the first stage, and then they see the software in the end of verification stage. The time gap between these two can be anywhere from several months to several years. So therefore, the customer has to wait for a long time to see what exactly the developers and building, and to know like that it meets what the customer really wants. The method allow has very limited flexibility for innovations. Waterfall expects all the requirements to be captured and documented in the requirement stage, and thereafter nothing new or no changes to be accommodated. Because of that, no, this is not suitable for projects that don't know the requirements clearly at the start, as such as a startup that tries to build a new and innovative software based on partial requirement is not possible with the waterfall method. And since clients are not involved during the design and implementation, there's no client feedback on what the team is building until they see the whole software before production release. So if the requirements are misunderstood and misdocumented, the system built will be different to what the clients really wants, and it will take another long time to get it rectified with huge extra cost and extra time as well. So since the client has only one opportunity to give their requirements to the development team, the client tends to ask for features that they themselves do not know whether needed or whether they ever use. But since they don't want to take changes, the client will give a lot of feature requests at the start that may overwhelm the development team as well. So if at all there are changes to be incorporated into the system, then deadline will be extended because the stages has to be revisited, taking a lot of time. For example, if a new change comes in during design phase, though the change may be related to a specific part of the system, the entire design will come to halt and requirements will be revisited, redocumented, reviewed, and signed off again by the customer. So all this will waste a lot of time originally planned for the project. So it could delay the entire project delivery. Now let's compare and contrast the waterfall methodology with the agile methodology. I've done a lesson for agile methods, and you can click the link below to view that to learn agile methodology in detail. Due to the limitations of waterfall, the agile methodology came into existence. So in waterfall, the teams are isolated into phases or stages. The key communication instrument between the team is the document that are handed off from one team to another. For an example, the requirement phase is done by the business analyst team. They have over the signed off SRS to the design team. The design team contains architects and other use the SRS, the software requirement specification, do the designs and documenting technical documents, and hand them over to the implementation teams that consist of the developers. Therefore, the teams work in like silos in each phase. That leads to misunderstandings and miscommunications, and ultimately there could be project failures. Agile, on the other hand, foster a culture of collective teamwork and always uses a cross-functional team is in every phase. Developers and architects and testers are QAs are encouraged to sit in client meetings where requirements are discussed, and BAs attend design meetings as well. So hence, because of that, like less changes of ambiguity, misunderstandings, and so because it leads to developing a system that client requirements are met. Uh, when we talk about the waterfall, it has rigid phases and one cannot deviate from them even if you find an issue in a previous stage. Uh, but agile allows flexibility, and since only a small part of the software goes through the phases in an iteration, if there are issues, they will be caught sooner than later, and corrective actions can be taken immediately. Waterfall does not allow customers to see a working software till the end of the project. Therefore, there is no way to verify what the developers are building is what the client really wants. On the other hand, in Agile, the working software is always released, and it's demo to the client at each iteration. And an iteration can be anywhere between 1 week or to 4 weeks, the client see a new part of working system in every 4 weeks, right? So this is useful to rectify any issues with the client feedback or misunderstanding of the requirements, as well as adjusting the requirements to meet customer needs. So this ultimately resulting in a perfect system that customers want and that they're happy about. So finally, the waterfall method has very limited room for scope changes. The scope is decided and somewhat carved in the stone once the requirement phase is completed and SRS is signed off. Therefore, any changes will result in revisiting the whole requirements, redesigning the system, and changing a lot of system parts already coded. So this will be very costly in terms of double effort and time taken. Agile, on the other hand, allows a lot of room for changes at the end of each iteration. Since requirements are not completely analyzed and since the whole system is not built at one go, customers can constantly review the work in releases after each sprint, give their feedback, request changes to scope or improvements to already built parts, and accommodating these scope changes at very zero or low cost, since these are related to a part that is not already built. So even if parts are built, it's just a matter of changing only that part, right? Finally, yeah, that's about the chair differences between agile and waterfall. So, finally, you all needs to remember that whether we use agile or whether we use waterfall as a project management methodology, both of these methodologies, the end goal is the same. That is to achieve a crystal clear project execution with minimum cost, minimum time, and with the best of quality to meet the customer needs. So, what we are going to use, whether it's agile or waterfall, depends on the complexity of the system, the size of the system, how thorough we are with the system requirements, and the cost and all that. Okay. So that's the end of the lesson on waterfall method that comes under section 15.2 in system development topic. Thank you.